Tyler Glasnow will be healthy this season. I'm calling it. I believe in it. Let's talk about it. Let's get locked on Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, Dodger fans. Welcome to Locked On Dodgers. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one local sports daily podcast network. Locked On, your team every day. This is a daily podcast covering the World Series champion Los Angeles Dodgers, bringing you the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue. You can find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube. All you got to do is search for Locked On Dodgers. You can become an everydayer by listening or watching every day, which can be made easier by subscribing and getting notified when episodes are ready or when we're going live on YouTube. And if this is your first time listening or watching, welcome. I'm Vince Samperio, usually joined by co-host Jeff Snyder. But, Jeff covered for me on my birthday, so I'm covering for him today. And we're here to talk about the Dodgers. We're here to talk about Tyler Glasnow. But first, Jeff and I have been lifelong Dodger fans our entire lives, and we've been doing this here podcast going into year 7. We've been covering the Dodgers in a few different ways for over a decade, so we are well versed in the Dodgers. And Tyler Glasnow is somebody that we haven't necessarily seen the entire skill set as a Dodger. Well, we've seen his entire skill set, not in the skill set that we've seen too many times before on the Dodgers roster, and he's obviously a little bit frustrating in the sense of, the Dodgers traded for him. They signed him to an extension and everything was going swimmingly. And then he missed a couple starts around the All-Star break. And then he came back and he wasn't pitching very well. And then he was hurt and shut down for the rest of the year. And ultimately prompted a meeting from Dave Roberts that might have helped or jumpstart the Dodgers' run to a World Series title. But obviously, that run to a World Series title probably would have been made easier having Tyler Glasnow available. And the reason we're talking about Tyler Glasnow today is obviously because he pitched. He threw one inning. He had a couple strikeouts. He did give up 2 runs, 3 hits. 3 hits, no walks. But ultimately, spring results don't matter if they did. Would we worried? No, but we'd definitely be, not as fun being 1-3 or 1-4, whatever the Dodgers are, rather than not being that. But yeah, spring results don't matter. Tyler Glasnow, who we last saw watching the Dodgers from the dugout because of tendonitis in his elbow, pitch a successful inning, and that's the biggest part of it. And Glasnow talked a little bit about the changes that he made this offseason, and for me, it has me. I guess I'll say I'm a sucker for Tyler Glasnow, but I believe in Tyler Glasnow. When the Dodgers traded for him last year, and he kind of presented he's not injury prone. It was just one injury that kind of bit him twice type deal, and I was all in on that. I was all in on Tyler Glasnow, and it was working out for a while. He was an all-star for the first time. He was the Dodgers ace through the first half of the season, and then it all kind of fell apart from there. But I still believe in Tyler Glasnow, and I still believe that he's not injury prone. If it's one injury that got you 2 years because you didn't take care of it right the first time, that to me that's just one injury. And then last year, tendonitis. They appear to have found what was maybe contributing to a little bit of extra strain on his arm, his elbow specifically. And Glasnow talked about that and talked about kind of what it was. And basically last year when he got hurt or when he went on the IL and a little bit of a back issue, when he came back, he just couldn't find the mechanics. And then the mechanics that they did end up looking at and the thing that they did end up finding is that he was, quote, flying open, end quote, too much in his old delivery. And to compensate on that, he was putting more force on his elbow as he extended toward home plate. And yeah, this makes sense with Tyler Glasnow, somebody as tall as he is, as I don't know, he's lanky in a sense. He's not like full on lanky, but he has some lankiness to him. And yeah, for all those moving parts to be in sync, it's probably not the easiest thing. And if they're not in sync, one little thing can switch this and move that and turn, what should have been a healthy season into a season that ended before September, and that's always tough. But they identified that Glasnow. We talked a little bit about the delivery that he mentioned and the little tweaks that he made, and it was something that you probably weren't even going to really notice too much, or it was tough for him to talk about, but it was something that you would be able to notice. And once he started pitching, we did notice it a little bit. We got to see a little bit more of it here, and it kind of did come down to that back a little bit. The word they have in this article is spine angle and keeping the direction towards home plate, and he, hoping that keeps him healthier. And you know, when we go live sometimes, or when we see comments on social media, some of it is a little unfair to like all the Dodgers because it's let's just the arm injuries, if they're going to happen, they're going to happen. It's not always, most of the time, not really due to overuse. Could be you misusing, or bad mechanics, or overcompensating because you feel something somewhere else, so you put extra strain on your arm and blah blah. There's no magic number, there's no magic idea, there's no magic anything when it comes to pitcher injuries. Yeah, how the Dodgers been hit hard by it recently. Yes, there's a lot of young pitchers that got arm injuries that were either out for the year or going to be out for the year or going to be out for half of this year, depending how it goes. Then you had Glasnow who got hurt, and you think, what's wrong with the Dodgers? But sometimes it might be just nature. To me, I feel like at this point, every pitcher, whether starting or reliever, if your game is built on velocity in any way, you're gonna have Tommy John at some point. And to me, it's inevitable at this point. It's just, your elbow ran out, you're trying to get a new ligament, and hopefully your elbow doesn't run out again. But with Glasnow, when there's an active change to be made, that's a good sign. The other part that is not a good sign is that he could get out of whack again mechanically and get hurt again or not be effective or whatever the case is. But I'm choosing to believe in Tyler Glasnow. And I don't think I don't think there's a number of starts or innings that the Dodgers particularly have for him, because like I said, obviously the less innings you throw, the less amount of chances there are for you to throw and hurt your arm. But if that was the case, then nobody would be a starting pitcher. We would just have a bunch of multi-inning relievers and trying to work your way that way. But that's not realistic. And there are starting pitchers, and I do think that Tyler Glasnow is going to be one of, if not the best one on the Dodgers this year. And I believe he's going to be healthy. I believe he's going to make as many starts as the Dodgers rotation allows him once they get into a 6-man rotation. And I think he's going to be up there in Cy Young voting, top 5 for sure. And that's nothing more than me, like I said, being a sucker for Tyler Glasnow, but believing in the work, believing in him figuring it out, and believing in, while there are times you can't control things. I think if there's one thing you control is how you work, and I believe in Tyler Glasnow doing the work. And it doesn't mean that he wasn't doing the work last year when he got hurt. It's just a matter of they maybe hadn't identified anything, or they didn't realize anything, or whatever the case was, and he ended up getting hurt. Here, there's something actively identified. You would hope that that's really what happened and why the extra strain on his elbow and why he got tendonitis. And then you would hope that he can put it all together. He can hold mechanically over the course of the season. And, bada bing, bada boom, you have another ace behind a guy that's won 2 Cy Youngs, behind a guy that, was one of the most important pitchers down the stretch and in the postseason for the Dodgers in Yamamoto, behind Roki Saki and Shohei Ohtani, who could be, pitching stars once again, one for the first time in the big leagues. And, you start to think, oh, yeah, the Dodgers still have Tyler Glasnow. And when he's good and he's healthy, he's good. And I do think that I would count on and bank on Tyler Glasnow. And if he gets hurt in April or earlier or a little bit later, yeah, you can come back and find this episode and, probably ridicule me. But I don't know. I just like the guy. I believe in him. I feel like he's gotten a bad rap when it comes to being injury prone, and hopefully this is a year that he proves and shows that, hey, you know what, I'm just fine. I had a couple weird freak things that happened to me, or things that I have tried to fix in my delivery and my mechanics in order to not have this happen again. And that's where we're sitting. So Tyler Glasnow, I believe in you. Chris Taylor, I don't know how much I believe in you. That's what we're going to talk about next. Chris Taylor, what's his role? Is he fighting for a role, or does he have a role, at least for the time being? We'll get into it. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is here and brought to you by Locked On Dodgers, by me, Vince. This is something you would want to get into. Locked On Dodgers is here for you every Monday through Friday, or Sunday through Thursday. Sometimes if we go live the entire week. Either way, if you want to get notified when episodes are ready or when we are going live, you can check out or you can subscribe and get notified when that happens. You can be coming every day or by listening, watching every day. And if you're on YouTube already, you can check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles, two 24/7 streaming channels from the Locked On Podcast Network, bringing you the biggest news and stories from the sports world and the LA sports world. All right, let's talk Chris Taylor. And we've seen Chris Taylor, already a few times this spring. But Chris Taylor's job, I don't think, is going to be won or lost in the spring, personally. I think Chris Taylor has till at least May before the Dodgers seriously consider anything to do with him. And I think they're doing it out of respect. I think they're doing it out of hope. And I think they're doing it because they can do it right now. Like, they have, really, really good pitching. They have a really, really good starting offense. And realistically, Chris Taylor could play as less as one time a week, as much as a few times a week. But ultimately, he's one guy in a 9-man lineup when the other 8 guys could be, legitimate all-star caliber type players, or at least expected to be pretty good. With Chris Taylor, you're kind of dealing with, Joker's wild. Like, who knows what's going to happen with him? But I think that he's going to have a little bit of runway, as Dave Roberts likes to say. And I think that's one, like I said, out of respect. The roster spot isn't not as important on the position player side as it is on the pitching side, in terms of, if you have somebody that's not effective taking up a roster spot, probably not the best, considering you have more than enough names to be effective in those roles. Whereas the offensive side, yeah, if you broke down everything, rushing and Pages, and I don't know about Outman right now, but rushing and Pages might have more value to a team, or to the Dodgers offensively, than Chris Taylor. But there's no need for somebody that's gonna make such little impact. He's not counted on for big impact. Nobody on this team, nobody in the fans or in the stands, or nobody is expecting Chris Taylor to carry this team. And I think that's why you can give him a little bit of the space, a little bit of leeway to figure himself out and to get going. And hopefully that is what ends up happening. But yeah, I mean, Chris Taylor, much like Glasnow talked about making adjustments in the offseason, Chris Taylor recently talked on that and said, quote, "I worked on some mechanical stuff, and he's trying to get things closer to where they were when he was good. He's just trying to perform. He's just trying to make the team, swing path, being more direct to the ball, and all that type of stuff." And I feel like we've heard this the last couple of years for Chris Taylor, working on the swing, working on getting back to, or not getting back, but just working on what worked. And I don't know, I don't necessarily believe in it like I believe in Tyler Glasnow, but I think that with what he's contributed to the team, and like I said, the simple fact of the team's going to be really good. If Chris Taylor was your everyday left fielder, this Dodger team is still going to win 100 plus games, considering health. And I think that if that's your floor with this guy as your everyday starter, then I think you can afford to give him a month or two to see if he can bring any value, whether that value is to be traded, whether that value is actual value to the team, whether that value is, hey, Chris Taylor, you get to your, I don't know when he's expected to get to his 10 years. I know someone's kind of mentioned as maybe that's what the Dodgers are doing, making sure he gets to those 10 years and then they'll decide what to do with them. But whatever the case is, he's not going to hurt you actively. And he could be worth negative WAR. And by definition, that would mean he's actively hurting your team. But for this Dodger team, that doesn't hurt you. And I don't necessarily know if I agree with this position of, Chris Taylor deserves it or Chris Taylor should be given this leeway. I am on the fence about that 100%, but I understand it. And that's kind of where I'm coming from is I understand that this is the case, that they made their bed and they're lying in it in a way that maybe not everybody prefers, but that's the way they're going to do it. And with Pages having an option, Outman, if that was the case, having an option with guys like Eddie Rosario, I know he's probably going to get talked about. He's had a few hits. He had the homer in the first game, and he's hit a couple of other times since then. Eddie Rosario is not making this team out of spring unless somebody gets hurt or maybe two people get hurt. And Eddie Rosario's value to this Dodger team is, hey, if we have a midseason injury, we can call this guy up and he could take a 40-man roster spot, but it's not a 40-man roster spot we're married to. And, that's where Eddie Rosario fits on this Dodger team. I don't think there's any chance he's competing directly or indirectly with Chris Taylor for a spot on this opening day roster. Kike Hernandez is not fighting for a spot versus Chris Taylor. Kike Hernandez has his own spot. At this point, I feel like Chris Taylor has his own spot. Miguel Rojas has the other bench spot. And then whoever's the backup catcher, realistically Austin Barnes, those are the 4 bench spots. I don't think there's anything that happens in camp other than injury that can change that. And I'm fine with it. I don't know if I agree, but I'm fine with it. I have no issue with it. Chris Taylor was someone that my personal Dodger brand is built on a little bit. And he's a guy that has brought a lot of good memories and fun times and all that type of stuff. And there's people that don't care about that. There's people that do, and there's no right way to think about it. But I honestly do think that Chris Taylor is going to get a month or two of maybe inconsistent at bats, but consistent chances to show that, hey, you know what, I can be a guy that helps this team win. And honestly, I don't know. It would have to be a contact hitter or more of a contact hitter for me to truly believe oh yeah, Chris Taylor's going to help this team, because strikeouts in big moments don't necessarily help unless they are, hey, you didn't hit to a play. That's the only way a strikeout is relevant. And if he's hitting the way he hits, strikeouts are going to happen in a lot of things. But the other part is Chris Taylor's getting older. A lot of guys make adjustments to get better as they get older. They either stay good or, pitchers can find different ways. Hitters can maybe find different ways. But Chris Taylor's 34, turning 35 in I forget when his birthday is, but he's turning, turning 35 in the end of August. So he'll basically go through the whole season as a 34-year-old. And, not a lot of 34-year-olds are reinventing the wheel. But if you want to find, a positive or a silver lining or however you want to word it, Jason Hayward did do that. He did redefine himself a little bit, and he did figure some things out, and he did contribute to this Dodger team. And he is now still playing when maybe some thought his career wasn't going to be that way. Now Jason Hayward is not, let's see, is Jason Hayward as old as Chris Taylor? Jason Hayward's 35, so this means 2 years ago he was 33, so similar age when he underwent a little bit of a swing change, figured things out. The Dodgers put him in positions to where he would succeed or have the best chance to succeed. And, I think the Dodgers have to find out what those positions are. Chris Taylor hasn't been necessarily a good hitter against lefties or righties the last couple of years. So it's not a matter of simply putting him against just lefties and, oh, yeah, that's going to work. But, I think he's going to get that runway, and I am fine with it. And if you're not fine with it, that's also fine, because we can agree to disagree. You don't have to agree, you just have to listen. That's what we say at the end. So appreciate that. If we're agreeing to disagree. All right. Last topic. Rafael Devers. There's no chance the Dodgers get him, right? I don't think there is, but there was hypothetical put out there by a writer. And when that happens, sometimes we talk about it, and that's what we're going to do next. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. And remember, right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. And remember, that $5 bet doesn't have to be a bet that's placed before the game starts. You can live bet throughout the game. So even if you miss the opening tip off, or you want to bet on the fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine those live bets into a same game parlay. Now, let's just say that the Lakers get down early against the Mavericks on Tuesday night. Ultimately, I believe in Luka and him not going to lose to the Mavericks, and ultimately probably him scoring 30, 40 points. So if the Lakers get down early and you say, hey, the Lakers are plus money right now, I can get them in on the same game parlay, and I can also get that with Luka Betts points. Boom, you're building that right there, and you're hopefully helping yourself out. So go over to FanDuel and FanDuel.com. Check it all out. Remember, you get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. I want to thank you for making Locked On Dodgers any listen of your day. I want to thank you for being an everydayer. We appreciate you if you're already subscribed. If you're not subscribed, but you are a consistent listener, just subscribe. I know you don't have to. You're going to come listen to it, but subscribe. It gets a big shiny number out there on YouTube, and when people see big shiny numbers, like, oh, all these other people subscribe, I should probably subscribe too. And boom, now we're building subscribers, baby. So that's what we want to do. And remember, you can go be on the podcast from Locked On Dodgers Insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. You can text directly with us, get text updates from us regarding the Dodgers, and also get an exclusive link to our Discord server to talk Dodgers with other Dodger fans. So join subtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. All right. Before we get into Rafael Devers talk, Bobby Miller update. He is feeling fine. He went in one of the chambers that the Dodgers have in their facilities, and his headache's gone, and he was going to throw. So all in all, for such a scary moment, it has been a lot of positive updates since then. The biggest thing now will be, does Bobby Miller have any PTSD out there on the mound? Is he going to be able to get in there and face hitters and not have to have that in the back of his head where it's going to affect the way he pitches? And that'll remain to be seen, but it's good to see that he's throwing again, and I'm excited to hopefully see him on the mound again soon. Let's talk Rafael Devers now. I don't conceivably think Rafael Devers is getting traded. If he is getting traded, there's no way he's getting traded to the Dodgers, just with the way the Mookie Betts trade has gone for the Red Sox. And I can't imagine their front office going to be putting themselves through scrutiny again by trading Rafael Devers to the Dodgers. But there was an article from Zach Reimer who wrote, pitching wild Rafael Devers trade ideas amid the drama. And the one that he has for the Dodgers, again, well, I'll read it first and then we'll go over it. The trade proposal is the Dodgers get Devers, the Red Sox get Max Muncy, Chris Taylor, Bobby Miller, Alex Freeland. Okay. If the Red Sox called the Dodgers and said, we'll give you Rafael Devers and you give us Max Muncy, Alex Freeland, Bobby Miller, and Chris Taylor, Rafael Devers is a Dodger. But I don't think that's happening. The Red Sox wouldn't call, and that wouldn't be the package. And that's why I don't think Devers will be a Dodger, because the package wouldn't make sense for the Dodgers, considering that they would have another long-term contract on the on the ledger, and to a player that might not play third base for that much longer. He might not even play third base this year for the Red Sox. And do the Dodgers want to have a long-term contract out there with a guy that could potentially have to move to first base because he can be DH, because the Dodgers already have a DH for the next 9 years. But like I said, if that was the call from the Red Sox, Muncy, Taylor, Bobby Miller, and Alex Freeland, the Dodgers do that, I think, 10 out of 10 times. Um, but it is interesting to just kind of think, like, maybe Devers doesn't get traded this year, but maybe, now the relationship between him and the Red Sox is frayed. And maybe he doesn't end up playing third base this year. And now he's frustrated. And now, he wants to get out. And now we're looking at, I don't think trade deadline, where I think we're thinking that we're looking at winter 2025. And I think you could definitely say the Dodgers would be in if there was to be movement with Rafael Devers. But I don't think there's any movement that's anywhere close right now. I think they'll figure out all this, quote unquote drama that they have with the Red Sox, with Devers saying he was only going to play third base, with Tristan Casas saying that he thinks Rafi should play third base, with Bregman saying, I'll just play anywhere. I just want to win. And, different opinions flying all over the place. That's kind of where they're at. But it would be fun, and it's fun to think about, and something that I hadn't really thought about at all, other than maybe trying to troll a Red Sox fan friend, where I was just like, oh yeah, you just trade his Devers too. You already traded his Mookie. So yeah, ultimately not gonna happen. If it were to happen, I don't think the Dodgers would be in on it. But if the Red Sox were to call with a specific offer, and the specific offer being too good to refuse, then the Dodgers would make that deal. Um, yeah, but ultimately, I don't think that's going to happen. But, it's fun to think about for a few minutes on a podcast when you're talking about the Dodgers. So, and as much as I love, Max Muncy and believe in Bobby Miller, and, I just had a whole segment on Chris Taylor. If those guys were the guys that to get Rafael Devers, you go ahead and put Rafael Devers fourth or fifth in this Dodger lineup, and you have a murderer's row legitimately, if they don't already have one now. So a couple other updates from around the way in the spring. Doesn't look like Michael Kopech's going to start the year on the opening day roster. We kind of knew that already, but it's more confirmed than it was before. Ohtani the other day pitched. I'm sure Jeff and Clint talked about it. Freddie Freeman should be playing in Cactus League's games this week. Shohei Ohtani should be playing in Cactus League's games this week offensively. Um, Will Smith should be playing in Cactus League games by the end of the week, according to Dave Roberts. So those are three big bats to add to this lineup. And I'll finish out the episode on this point. Like, if you're concerned about the Dodgers because of their spring record, don't be. If you watch individual players and get concerned about them, it could be a little bit more justified, but also without knowing exactly what guys are working on, we don't know exactly what they're doing. So maybe they're trying something out. Maybe they're only pitching a certain way, blah, 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 blah. And I think that kind of, like the other games where the Dodgers have given up a lot of runs, it wasn't guys that were supposed to be on their big league roster, or weren't even names that maybe a lot of us even knew. But, you see the game on Monday with the Reds, and, Glasnow gives up a couple runs. Tanner Scott gives up a 2-run home run. And somebody else gave up a 2-run home run. And you think, oh, yeah. But, Tanner Scott might have been working on something specific and threw something that he probably would never throw. We don't know that. And, if we're sitting here on March 25th and Tanner Scott has a ERA, a spring training of over 9, then we would have to break it down. Okay, what does he look like? How does he look? Is he trying something? Let's just say he has an 8 something ERA on March 25th, but he's also has thrown not one off speed pitch the entire spring training. Then, that could mean, oh, yeah, maybe that's why. But whatever the case is, it's good to get these positive injury updates. Hopefully, a lot more positivity coming as we get into last week of February, getting into March. There will be real games that count played in March, and that's exciting. And that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day. Make sure to find us wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe so you can get notified when episodes are ready or when we're going live on YouTube. You can check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles, 24/7 streaming channels from the Locked On Podcast Network on YouTube. You can go beyond the podcast, come Locked On Dodgers Insider by going to joinsubtext.com/Locked On Dodgers. You can follow us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Locked On Dodgers. Jeff's on Twitter as Nightdog. I'm at Vincent91. You can DM us with any questions or comments. You can also send those via email, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or via voicemail. Text at 323-863-5625. We're here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us. When you're in your car or if you're at home, text my advice, play podcast, Locked On Dodgers. Hey, remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. Have a good one.